Welcome to A Growing Concern. For folks who tuned in last week, we had a phone call partway through the show. A woman called in and told us about an organization called Portland Tenants Priced Out. Here, it's a Portland-based organization, I believe, and her name was Marie Aline Claire. And I got a hold of her after the show, after the weekend actually, and we talked about it, and she said she'd like to come on and talk further about that issue. And she brought along with her Guy Berliner, who is with Portland Tenants Union. We've got graphics for those, and hopefully folks can follow up for the show, and you get an opportunity to call in a little while and ask questions, or you can follow up and go on the online and learn a little bit more about that if it's something we don't cover. But welcome to the program, Guy and Mari.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Jim.
I really appreciate your tenacity. You had to call me more than once to get my attention.
You're a busy man.
Yeah, I was busy, really busy, because I just moved recently, and I ran across a lot of the issues that, not so much the being booted out and not having any place to go, but just the whole dynamic of the renters and the buyers and sellers world right now in Portland, how bad it is. Yeah. But first, we'll just talk a little bit about what got you interested in this first, and then we'll ask Guy also what got you interested in this particular issue, because there's a lot of issues out there that even just around people who are poor, what they need.
Well, what got me interested is I have been both a landlord and now I'm a renter. And there was this rumor going around where I live at the Heatherbrae Commons, and I found out kind of through the grapevine that the rent hikes were coming, and they weren't just like small incremental rent increases, they were hundreds of dollars. So I wrote a letter, an email to my manager and asked him directly, you know, what's the deal here? Because we have people here at Section 8, low income seniors and people on a fixed income, and I've never heard of hundreds of dollars of rent increases in Portland, Oregon. Are you kidding? Mm-hmm. And so I asked him, and he wrote back and he said, yes, we feel that the market now is such that all the other places are raising their rents several $100s, and we want to be in step with the market, and so we're going to have a high increase. So your rent is going to go up about $300, $400 or more $100 per month next time your lease expires.
Be in step with the greed, huh?
Well, what I think is happening is that the place is being sold, and there are, because we've heard certain other information coming from management and from the maintenance folks who are very unhappy now because they're getting the boot too. So they're actually out looking for jobs, I'm told. So anyway, I was just shocked. I mean, you know, people can maybe withstand maybe $50, maybe even $100. Like mine got raised $75 this year, you know, which is quite substantial. And so I thought, well, my goodness, if we don't do something about this runaway train, then they're just going to keep going with it. And I know part of the issue is that people from other states are moving in because of the housing crisis. People lost their homes, and because we have some tenants in our complex who lost their homes, and so they had to become apartment, you know, renters.
Oh, of course, right.
And so, but what's happening? People are renting the places sight unseen. They arrive here and they move in, and then they move out. Like next door to me, the place is turned over 4 times in 2 years. So it's just. Instead of having like a rental community where people get to know your neighbors and maybe you sit down and have coffee or something like that, it's just a meal, just in and out, in and out. And now that they can charge whatever they want to, and on people that really can't afford it, like myself right now, because I'm disabled and I'm on disability, and so I get Section 8 assistance, and a neighbor of mine also, who's a friend of mine, does also. And so we were just like up in arms about this whole situation. So I wrote to the director of Section 8 about the situation. I wrote to the city commissioners, Saltzman and Amanda Fritz and I can't think of the other guy. Anyway, so they wrote back immediately. I got an answer back within 2 hours.
Wow.
And the secretary was she said, everybody's going to get a copy of this. And, it was like it went wild. So I put up a website called Tenants Priced Out because I realized tenants aren't connecting with other tenants. We're all over the place. We're scattered. We don't know each other. People are suffering in silence. When I talk to people, I found out that they had no idea that other people are having the same problem. So when I met Guy here, he decided to help to pass out some of the flyers and stuff. So I was getting on the bus and asking people, I'd hold up a flyer and I'd ask, who here is affected by the rent hikes? And everybody would go, like, hand me one, right?
Well, the original grassroots organizer.
Exactly. So we were down at Portland State, and there was a group of men that were in a huddle, and I kind of disrupted them, right? I expected them to tell me, well, please go away, but no. As soon as I brought out the flyer, they said, oh, we need one of those, right? And they started grabbing them out of my hand. One young lady down there told me that they raised her rent $700 per month. 700. And then the couple of tenants or whatever started, fighting back on this. So she said the landlord was very merciful and they lowered it to $500 increase per month. So no, you know what? I believe in being fair. And if you've got to charge what people can actually pay, and making people, pushing them out, not caring whether or not they're prepared or not caring whether or not they're working 3 jobs already, and now you're going to crank it up to $200-300 a month, or 4, not 5 or 7 in this particular case, and that's okay. And Portland has decided that that's okay, and the whole community, well, you can move somewhere else. This is what I'm hearing. You can go to another state, and so when I've talked to people and I said, well, do you realize that maybe you're coming to Portland and maybe $1,500 a month for a studio isn't a big deal to you? I said, do you realize by participating in this run on the people, run on renters, that eventually that $1,500 place is going to turn into maybe $3,000 eventually? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that? So this is why I think that number one, tenants need to organize. We need a union. We need a network, and the community, which I'm on a online community, Linwood or something, and they have this online thing you can sign up for, neighbor to neighbor kind of deal. So people were complaining about all those people that were in the news out there. Had needles and stuff, and they'd taken over somebody's house, and they were making a mess all over in the yard, and the neighbors were complaining about those awful homeless people, right? Mm-hmm. So I began to respond and ask questions to them about, well, have you thought that maybe these people, which they were using derogatory comments about, were once neighbors, had jobs, went to school,
Maybe they still do have jobs.
Exactly. And whatever's happened as a result of what's went on in their life, that this is a problem now that we're all dealing with. And I said, are you aware that there's more homeless people lining up ready to join the ranks? Are you aware
of the pre-homeless?
Exactly, yeah. So the conversation, surprisingly, started to turn around. They started to say, well, what can we do proactively to do something about the situation, to be part of the change? So that's why, that's what Tenants Priced Out is all about. And specifically, we're working right now to help people find temporary housing, since everything's locked down pretty much, the low-cost housing, the Section 8 buildings, and now the Section 8 vouchers are worthless on the open market now, because
Sure.
as soon as the legislation went through, the property owners decided, well, we'll just raise up the price here, right? So we don't have to bother with them. So it seems like the social activists or whatever are kind of on the behind the 8 ball a little bit, and we need to really get in front of the train and not be chasing it down the track.
Sure.
So I'm trying to do everything I can to be part of the change. And
All right.
so Guy here.
So Guy, he's a little bit about your story, and she mentioned union and a couple things, and she was just kind of leading right to you there.
Yeah, the union concept appeals to me because I think Mari hit the nail on the head. We have to work together, the people who are directly affected by the crisis. We can't wait around for someone to help us who isn't one of those being directly affected. It's good and nice if politicians who sometimes have their thumbs to the wind pay us attention sometimes, and I'm glad to hear that Mari was able to get quick responses from people on the city council, but I don't think we can rely upon that all the time. And I think that there's also something disempowering about that if we assume that those folks are going to fix our problems for us. I think that's dangerous. The way I got involved in this is that I don't have a real hard luck story to tell. I've been fortunate. I started out, well, for the past year or so, I've been involved in the climate justice movement. And
Good for you.
your colleague mentioned that he saw me at an event that was related to that. I'm seeing another train wreck that's approaching us, this climate change problem, which you can think of as an ongoing emergency disaster response situation on a global scale.
Expanding and escalating.
Yeah,
both.
on a planetary scale, right? And a friend of mine told me a few months back something that I hadn't even thought of, which is, what's the first thing that any expert in disaster preparedness will tell you in terms of how to prepare? Beyond just the disaster preparedness kit that you keep at home, you have water supplies and so on. One of the first things that they will tell you is get to know your neighbors. Make an investment of time and effort to get to know them, come up with plans to support each other, help each other out, because in the event of a disaster, you're going to be without help, possibly for weeks, from first responders. They'll be overloaded, they'll be taxed, they'll be lucky if they can handle their own personal problems before they can do anything to help you.
Yeah, earthquake comes to mind. I just saw something on
That's right.
TV. We're due for one.
That's right. Now, what are the odds of getting to know your neighbors or convincing people to get to know their neighbors when they have a sort of Damocles of displacement, eviction, being priced out of their living situation, hanging over their heads at any moment? It takes weeks, months, sometimes years to really get to know your neighbors well, to develop that network of close connections with people. If you are in this kind of state of siege that Mari is talking about, which
well
is becoming really apparent to me in our city, even in the past few months, it's becoming much more apparent with this wave of mass evictions, then people don't have the wherewithal, let alone the motivation, to get to know their neighbors. How are they going to respond to this slow-rolling disaster of climate change when they have an ongoing immediate disaster of being displaced? I mean, one of the factors that is devastating about climate change is that it causes displacement. It causes people to lose their housing by physically destroying their housing overnight. What we're now seeing is a man-made form of displacement that is a counterpart of the disaster of climate change.
Exactly.
We have the disaster of capitalism displacing people violently. It's a form of kind of subtle and subverted or subliminal, you could say, violence, because, it's not like the landlord immediately marches into your house at the point of a gun and says, you're out of here, or immediately tears down your building while you're in it. Instead, it's kind of a slow-rolling, like climate change, a slow-rolling disaster in which you get a notice in the mail in which you feel completely powerless to do anything about, and you're told you have to be out of here. And the implicit threat is, eventually, if you don't get out by the time that the landlord indicates, you will, in fact, be escorted out at the point of a gun.
Well, you'll get an eviction on your record, and you won't be able to rent anything else.
Exactly.
Even if you have the money.
So this is, in my view, a situation of violence. And in ways that really parallel the violence of climate change, okay, and that are very closely connected. When I realized that, and when my friend kind of started explaining that to me, I thought, my God, I've got to get involved in this problem. I'm a renter myself, but as I say, I've been fortunate. That could change at any moment, of course. But nonetheless, I see how this is affecting other people. And I want to put a call out to folks who are renters like me, or maybe you're not even a renter, but if you are someone who has been fortunate enough that you're not under the gun of an immediate personal emergency, I think it's incumbent upon you, I feel personally it's incumbent upon me, since I have the wherewithal, since I have a certain amount of bandwidth, I have the luxury of doing something to help others. I don't know tomorrow that someone else, that I might not need help from someone else. I mean, tomorrow I could be in the position, or maybe a year from now, or who knows, with the course of events and how things change, I might find myself in the position that the folks in the units in the building that we're going to be talking about are in. I need to have the kind of foresight to see that, and I want to urge people who are out there, who are watching this, who are thinking about this issue, and whether it affects them. I want to tell them, even if it doesn't affect you right now, you are part of this picture. And it's a question of human solidarity and planetary solidarity. You need to be part of this movement.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, we are all one in many ways, and then if it isn't affecting you, it might be affecting friends, it might be affecting you know, relatives, whatever, and a lot of this is because the property managers. The property managers, they're corporate, or if not corporate, they're at least, you know, a large sole proprietorship, and if you have an owner that's just a single owner, you're in a whole lot better shape. They might bump the rent $100 or something, but they're not going to be bumping it up like that. I know someone that would bumped up $200, and it was like a $700 rent. So you know, that's what. That's just almost over a third.
Yeah, and I think that you were making an extremely important point. There's something very different about a situation where you have a direct personal relationship
with the landlord.
Then there's a human element, right?
Yeah.
So even if the person might be a little greedy, I mean, we all are maybe, but if you have a human relationship with that person, that's going to change the dynamics and the calculations considerably.
Exactly.
Now, what we're seeing, and I think this is also very important, I think what you've said here draws attention to this, and I want to kind of draw even more attention to it. The rate at which, I don't have the statistic right now to quote you, but I'm convinced anecdotally that the rate at which the rents are going up far outstrips the rate at which population growth is increasing in Portland.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and I do have a statistic for you that I think you can verify pretty readily, which is, and this is quite startling, I think. This is national, as far as I know. National statistic on the home sales at the moment, in the last few months. 49% of home sales are cash in hand. All right. Now, who has cash in hand to simply buy a house outright? No mortgage, no financing.
49%.
49%.
That's people that are moving from a higher standard living to a.
I think a part of it is that, but that cannot
No,
account
that's
for the
not it.
entire
That's not
country.
all of
No,
it.
that's not
No,
it.
I think what you have to look at is the fact that the government, the Federal Reserve, the federal government has decided on a policy of injecting massive infusions of cash into the economy, which they see as a way of stabilizing our situation after the financial
The
collapse
crash,
of 2008.
yeah. That's-
Okay, they called it financial easing. They also call it the zero interest rate policy. But you have to look at what the effects of that are, all right? You've got millions of people who are fixed income folks relying upon a pension, relying upon a pension fund. In order to even keep up with the rate of inflation, to barely keep up with the rate of inflation, this zero interest rate policy is forcing millions of people into far riskier and more speculative investments than ever before. We've seen a boom in junk bonds. We've seen a boom in REITs, which are real estate investment trusts. Very risky investments, okay? And that capital is going not into productive economic activities. It's not going into creating lots of new jobs, because we know that the rate of job growth has been anemic at best, okay, despite what you're hearing in the media.
Just enough to be able for them to brag about it.
Yeah, but it's been anemic, and so the capital that the Federal Reserve is literally drowning the economy or the cash, right? It's not going into productive economic investments. It's going into speculative investments. It's going into exactly the kind of bubbles that created the 2008 crisis in the first place. It's going into a bubble here in Portland. It's going into speculative investments in tearing down housing, existing housing that was functional, and actually depleting our housing stock, not creating new housing, but depleting it and consolidating it into smaller numbers of much more expensive housing.
That's
Well,
the other half is evictions and demolitions.
That's right. It's been all over the news. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mariah.
Well, and I want to really address the philosophy here, because this same philosophy of buy it today, flip it tomorrow,
There's even TV
started
shows
back,
on it.
yeah, started back way decades ago, and people, just regular homeowners, turned their house into a cash machine. All right, so everybody was on the bandwagon when the party was going, right? Then the party crashed, all right? And then people lost their homes. And I remember having conversations with people. I said, do you realize that eventually you're going to drive the prices up so high that you're not going to be able to afford a house? Nobody's going to be able to afford it, right? So now that a house is $500,000 starting out, holding a conversation, and your wages are how much? So what we've done is we've created our own situation here. Everybody has by participating in it.
Sure.
So now it's reached the critical mass. Now it's spilled over to the rental market. But the philosophy is people don't matter. Profits matter. So now we're paying the price of it. So I think, people need to really stop and think, and I think this case with this Terry Lee apartment is just a microcosm and a example of what we're talking about. And it started with this private owner who had a relationship with the tenants, and then he decided to turn it over. I don't know what age he was. Maybe it was an investment, and now he's going to flip it
And retire,
and
maybe.
retire on it, right? Okay, so he had promised them that no, you don't have to worry. You won't have to move. I'm going to sell the property. You guys can stay here. And these are second chance renters, and they're very low income, what happened was, as soon as it sold, they got notices. So what you're going to hear in the video are 4 ladies. They were the only ones that would come out to the meeting. Guy was the one met. What was the lady you met the first
Shakita.
time? No, the lady that you took the video when you first went there that day.
Maria and the other lady's name is escaping me right now. Estella.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I went to the meeting because a guy really was wanting to help and wanting people in the tenants union that's forming to get involved in it. And so I said, yes, I want to get involved with this. So I went out to the meeting on Tuesday and met the ladies, and I took a camera and captured some of what they were going through, and that's what we're going to hear in the video.
Okay, well that sounds like you set it up pretty well. The video is ready. Someone just put the sign up. So this is about 16 minutes of various interviews then of people that are at the Terry Lee Apartments?
Yes.
Okay, fire away.
Okay. All right, Sharon. Start with your situation here. What's the problem?
I've been here almost 3 years, and right now I've been complaining about the bed bugs for like for a year, and nothing's ever been done.
Okay. And you've written
And
letters?
I'm on a fixed income. I'm disabled. I'll be 64 next month. I don't have any form of transportation right now. I don't even have a telephone, and I'm just very scared I'm going to be homeless in a couple of months.
Okay. Do you have family here or anybody?
I have family, but my family is in the north, and we're strange. I don't get along with my family, so it's like I'm just here by myself,
By yourself? Okay.
fighting this battle.
Okay. All right. What would you like the city officials to do right now for you?
Just help me get somewhere to live, us get some more time to find a place, which is going to be very difficult because I don't have a car, I don't drive. So just when it's time, just to help with when I do move with that. And,
Okay.
You know, and the truck to help me move that because I'm on a fixed income.
Okay, so you need help. And we've asked for moving expenses and considerations like that to the city officials.
Yes,
So that's where it really needs to come from. Okay.
And give people enough time, you know, not buying the property and then waiting, buying the property and then we get ready to getting ready for that month to come up so we can pay the rent, and then we get a 60-day notice. At least give us time to, you know, get everything situated, let them, you know, make sure that, you know, that people respond back to them, and then they let them know in a timely manner, instead of somebody being in the hospital, get out the hospital, and they got mail stacked up, and they gotta move, you know, and then they can't work because they've been in the hospital, you know. For instance, that's her situation, you know, and they just need to, you know, it's just a lot of stuff that, you know, that ain't right, you know, and not coming out here meeting and greeting. Not doing the yard, you know, garbage stacked up, you know, it's just a lot.
So there's been a lot of neglect to begin with, right?
Like I
Okay.
said, we've never met the people. You know, they never came out and introduced themselves
Or
like
anything.
that.
Okay. So what's the date when you have to move? And give me your name again. Okay.
Shakita Lewis.
Okay. And you've been there how long, Shakita?
October of 2011.
Okay. All right.
And you said what again?
And the date when you have to move is
October 31st on Halloween.
On Halloween.
And that's another thing. When they sold the place, when they bought the place, Robert specifically told them how long each person was in here, and everybody's here on a fixed income, and we second chance renters. So
Okay.
they want us to pay for September, October, be out October 31st. We on a fixed income. Who's to say that we get paid October 31st? So if we gotta be out October 31st, what if we get paid on the 5th? Then what do? Our stuff is stuck into place. We gotta vacate, and what we do? Sit outside until we, you know, get paid, and then come back, hopefully come back to get our stuff if they ain't already started tossing it out.
Exactly. So you're asking for more time, right? Okay, and some help with moving expenses, because how can people on a fixed income get it together on such short notice when it takes a lot of money to be able to move?
Absolutely, and meet and greet. They don't know that if somebody could have been in the hospital for some type of surgery, then they get out and they have all these stacks of paper they gotta move. And what if they been, and then it's somebody that's being in hospice, they send them home so they can get comfortable, get ready to, you know, to pass away.
Okay.
You know, they don't know, you know, they don't know none of this because they not coming out to meet and greet because they, you know, they just bought them. They don't know nothing, you know, it's just.
And then all the letters that we got were like a week later. I got them all when I got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Do you mind coming down a little bit here?
She said
So I
double
can-
picking you up.
Yeah, all the way up there. Can you
That's what I did.
can you come down? It's really important that that people understand the big picture here. What's your name?
April.
April. Okay. April, go ahead and tell us your viewpoint here.
We need more time. We need help with, like she said, there's no meeting, there's no greeting. I got out of the hospital at the beginning of the month and had a stack of letters from these people talking about we need to move. Here's a 72-hour notice because you didn't pay rent, but you have 60 days to move. We're all on a fixed income.
Okay. And anybody with children here, or okay? How many children? And how old? Two.
14 and 18. My 18-year-old just turned 18.
Okay, so school is going to have to change, and yeah, and
And some of us has, like me, I have pets. I know she has pets, And a lot of places aren't taking pets, you know, and we paid all our deposits here for pets and everything else, and then they're telling us half our deposits are gone, and where are they going?
Exactly. So you want your deposits back? Okay. All right.
To help us get another place.
Exactly.
I got a letter right here saying that they took I paid my deposit $500 for my dog. When I
Okay.
got here. I had her since she was 5 weeks old. She's 4 years old now. I paid $500 for her to be here with the old landlord. So now these people are telling me that they're gonna take my pet deposit and I gotta pay them. I owe $1,075 for where? I don't even know. And me and her tried to pay him the rent before, and they didn't want to take it. They said no, they were not taking nobody's rent money, that they just wanted us to move.
And then we get the 72-hour notice.
Yes, and then that's when we get the 72
And now they're
hours.
sending us all these reminder letters for the 72-hour notice.
Give
that
us
we
a
have to
move out
pay rent.
date and all.
Okay. So you're actually sounds like you're being harassed.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. What can you say your name, please?
My
April?
name is Blanca Martinez, and I'm also on oxygen. I got liver problems. I'm going to be hospitalized here pretty soon, Friday,
Okay.
to see how damaged my liver is at, because they want to do some tests in my body. So I'm going to be hospitalized. Where is all my stuff going? I don't know how long I'm going to be in the hospital or what.
And you'll need help with moving, either
Yes,
if you have a place to move
I don't
to,
have
right?
no family here. I'm not from here. I'm from El Paso, Texas,
Okay.
Mexico, and I'm not from here. I don't have no family here. I'm here by myself,
Okay.
And let
Okay.
them know how long you've been here.
and I've been here for 5 years, going on 60, 2016. I'll be here 6 years.
Okay.
And I've been here in 3, and then I just had to be put off work due to having emergency surgery and being in the hospital, and they don't have a release date for me to go back.
Oh wow.
So-
Okay. Okay. So we got health issues here. We
How long you been here?
be 3 years and, no. Yeah, it'll be 3 years next month. No, November the 12th.
Okay, so not even, so the average, what, 3.5 years is kind of the average here?
Well, it sounds like a number of them are 6, so 3, 6, it's like 4.5 years.
Something like that, yeah, yeah. So, okay, so all you got was a letter,
We got a letter saying that they had bought the place, and then they got a letter saying
Got all the letters right here.
Yeah.
that we
Okay.
had to move.
No, we got the
And then we got
vault, and then we got the one that we
Well, I
had to
got
put
all
the
mine.
cars, the people that's in the
That was
house.
with my first, yeah, that was with my first one saying that they bought the place.
okay.
But I got everything all in a stack because, like I said, I was in the hospital, so I got out to all of this.
Okay, so total letters, how many letters have you gotten?
I've gotten 2 reminders. I got one saying that 72 hours for not paying rent. I got one about who's all in your house and the cars, and then the one about we had 60 days to move, so like 5. 5 to 6.
And no face-to-face,
And
sit down,
no
talk to the
face-to-face.
tenant?
And when they send the letters, they're dating them
Yep.
as if they're dating them. They're dating them as the day they go out in the mail,
I
like
get
that,
you, yeah.
ahead of time, like
Yeah.
they handed them to
Like
us,
they had given it to you a long time ago, as if they had given it to you.
right. And so when you get it, it's like I got the reminder, and it said called on the 28th. I got mine Saturday,
Okay, okay.
and then today's the 28th. So I'm like, you know, they dating them all ahead of time.
The actual letter is dated three days ahead of time or farther out. The envelope will say like the 13th, and the letter will say the 16th.
Right, right.
They want to make it look like you've had a lot more time
Yeah.
than
Than you had, right. Okay, anything else that you want to say here to the city officials? I'm definitely going to press for you guys as a priority, number 1 here, since the notice is so short. Say it.
Us have pets too, and pets are like our family. We've had them for years.
Yeah.
And so many places now aren't taking pets. It's hard to find a place. And then, you know, trying to get rid of your pets, that's like getting rid of one of your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yes.
checked into kennels and all that. They're expensive.
Oh, yes,
I
yes.
have 2 that I have to put in kennels in there, and it's expensive.
How much were the prices, just what you saw?
Anywhere from 400 to like 800, depending on a month. I can't do that and pay rent somewhere. There's no way.
Exactly, okay.
SSD, and I only get $600, and if I didn't have my roommate that lives here with me, I wouldn't be able to pay rent for myself because this rent is too high.
Because you're Section 8, right? Okay, let's hear
I
it
get
again.
Section 8, but they only pay like 225 or something out of my 850 because I am a full-time employee, but being disabled right now, having to be off work, I have no income, and being that my doctor doesn't put it out for long, they're still trying to say now I have TANF. Well, now I have to be off work for who knows how long. And now Section 8 isn't even, they're saying they can't take my income down to TANF and saying that I really don't have 0 income because my doctor, her estimated release date is the 7th of October. But she had to do an estimated release date for my job for me to send in my LOA paperwork to see if I qualify for something there.
Okay, okay.
So it's like you get a toss-up. There's no.
It's like a catch-22 you're caught in.
And I'm paying, you know, out of my $850 for rent, I pay almost $700 of that out of pocket, plus the late fee. So I'm really paying my whole entire rent because I have to pay the late fee. So I'm paying almost $800 to be here, even with Section 8.
How much is the late fee?
$100.
Yeah, I've had to pay $100 for a late fee.
And I'm doing that every month.
Ever since we.
Oh, every month.
I've had to do it because the way when I was working, it was the way my paychecks were, and now being off work, I have no income. They
Because you didn't
haven't
have enough
started
all
it
at
yet.
once.
Right.
Right,
And
okay.
now these people are talking about they don't take multiple payments, you have to pay it all at once. And they don't take third-party checks, but then when you talk to them, they say, yes, we do take Section 8, but, you know, they have this whole big list of if you want to transfer to them, to their company, and actually rent one of their other units.
Oh, it all
The
of a sudden.
criteria is so
Yeah.
high that you can't even do that.
You can't do it.
The yard is so nasty, it's pitiful. That garbage.
It's a health hazard.
It looks like it, yeah.
And then they send these people out to come out and do whatever they doing.
And they
But then
just
y'all ain't
this
even,
morning.
yeah,
I saw that they had the
They're doing the sewer.
backhoe right there.
yeah.
They just showed up this morning, nobody knew they were coming, we had no notice
They
at
didn't give you
all.
any notice about that. And they just started tearing up the pavement here. I saw that,
There was
yeah.
no notice to send out, they
That
just
seems
showed
like
up
a
this
safety
morning.
hazard too, especially if you're disabled and you got a wheelchair or anything.
I got my walker.
That seems inappropriate. Did you see this, Mari, on here?
Yeah. It wasn't easy.
It doesn't look appropriate
It's
the way
not,
they
it's
did that.
not.
Especially they didn't give you notice.
No, they didn't.
No.
Yeah.
Has there been leaks or anything, or sewage backing up or any?
Well, I
right
thought,
here.
Yeah.
Her stuff is messed up down here.
And also
I was
Maria,
wondering,
right?
yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right there. I was wondering if she was at home, but I did see her chair. I think she left, but
What's messed up about it?
she said her bathroom is so messed up, it's leaking
Okay, okay.
water.
Because that's usually
everywhere.
when you see the sewage thing, there's backup happening.
And then I noticed yesterday or the day before yesterday, they sent out a maintenance man. The Fox manager sent out the maintenance man, and I was like, "Oh, is you the
yeah.
is you the manager? Or is you the people Fox manager?" He was like, "No, they just sent me out. I'm the maintenance man." I said, "The maintenance man? They gonna send you out?" And then he was like, "I gotta fix somebody's toilet was backed up. Something was going on, and he had to do that." And I was like, "So they sent you out here, but not coming out here to clean this up?" And I know he had to go and report like it's a mess over there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't care. Look how we living.
They just shoot at the kids.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, this garbage dump over here. What the hell is
I don't
this?
understand how this garbage is sitting out here like this. I mean, the landlord has got to have a contract with the city to pick up the garbage, surely.
Yeah, because then you can have rats over here in the trash and
This is absolutely horrible.
yeah, it's just, oh God.
Hi.
Get over here now. Okay. Get over.
Well, and the other thing is because the tenants are all being evicted, they don't have much motivation to keep it up either, you know.
I wouldn't care, yeah. And half of it's bed bugs. I see quite a bit of stuff is thrown away.
Yeah. They're probably getting rid of stuff because they have to get out of here.
All right, let them know who it is. Good idea. Let them know who it is. Their foster management, was it?
Well, and this is another thing that I want to point out. We're kind of on the horns of a bit of a dilemma, which is another thing that the public needs to be aware of and that people who care about this subject need to be aware of, and that is these folks have potential legal recourse, and there's lawyers who are very interested in their situation. But because of the kind of climate of fear that folks have lived in with respect to the power of landlords, they, even if they know their rights, they're not necessarily always eager to try to exercise them for fear of retaliation. Until we get to a crisis situation like this one, where these tenants suddenly have a 60-day notice, and they're being forced to move out. And when it gets down to the wire so tight like that, some people actually had 72-hour notices because they thought, well, gosh, if I'm being kicked out, what point is there in paying the rent when I've already lost all the legal rights that I had since my unit wasn't being maintained? I've been paying money for something that I didn't even get. I didn't get proper service. I didn't get living conditions up to standards of health and safety.
Well, legally,
Okay?
you don't have to pay the rent if those. If
Legally, you don't have to, but the problem is, and lawyers have told us this, if you want to withhold rent, although you have a legal right to do so under the conditions that these tenants were subjected to, you're very ill-advised to do that unless you seek out legal counsel. Now, these
and
folks...
give notice.
Yeah, now these folks, many of them are in situations, family situations, they don't have the wherewithal to even begin to seek out help from lawyers, to do research on their rights, to do all these things. They're lucky if they can, hold down a job, or if they can deal with medical issues that they've got in their families and themselves. So you end up with a situation where people are forced up against a wall. And in this case, some of the tenants had 72-hour notices. Our lawyers told us,
For lawyers for the Portland Tenants Union?
well, lawyers that I, as a volunteer with PTU, reached out to, told us that we must not directly confront the landlord about this situation. And the reason is because with the situation being so dire, the landlord has so much power, because we're down to the wire, that they can take immediate retaliation. And if they sense that we're trying to rally the community against them and trying to bring immediate pressure to bear against them, the situation is so delicate, they could just say, to hell with it, pardon my language, we're just going to kick these people out right away. We're not even going to take their rent, because they apparently they have a 10-day period within which they can actually refuse to take the rent from these people. It's a very bizarre legal situation, and it's the, like I said, it's the horns of the dilemma that we're on here. Okay.
So that's why I want to focus on the people in their situation, because they need temporary spot to land. The low-cost housing is dried up. It won't open up till spring. There's some buildings that are in the works, and there's some very nice ones, okay, that they would qualify for. But that's a wait a ways. So in the meantime, these people who are dealing with major illness, we're talking major surgery. One lady is on hospice, and they said they're making her move too. So what we need is the community to rally. We need homeowners. If you've got a spare room that you can open up, clear it out, make something available for one of these tenants, all right? These women have lived there on average of 4 years or more, and so they're stable and that type of thing, and they pay their bills, they go to work, okay, they're really trying, and all they need is just a place, and they're willing to store their things, put their animals in shelters or whatever needs to be done, because they realize the situation is critical. And if there are landlords out there that are property owners, that if you have a building where you could just give one unit, set it aside for a low-income tenant, that would really make a difference. If the community rallies and comes together, we can make a difference. And if people want to volunteer, please call me. And my number and everything is on the website at tenantspricedout.com. Go there and look at the website. We have a petition up there where we're petitioning the city officials to put a moratorium on the rent hikes, give people a little breather here for momentarily till we can reconstitute things and get legislation in place that can protect tenants more. Also, we've asked Home Forward to loosen up a lot of the bureaucracy, because one of the things that the women are very concerned about is if they don't have a place to go and they get forced out, they're going to lose their Section 8. Because you only have a short period of time in which to use it, or you lose it. So we've asked the director to look into that, and I know that they are making some sort of plan. They're putting it together, but I wrote them today and said that it's not happening fast enough. So I asked today for, we need emergency funds for displaced tenants immediately. We need some temporary housing. Some people brought up the idea, it might have been you, about, well, what about an empty school? We could turn it into a place, right? Temporarily, because winter's coming and we've got
McMinimans does it. You know?
yeah, I mean, winter's coming and we've got to shelter people. You know, maybe there's an army barrack or something that isn't being used, or something, some space,
I'm sure
right?
there's houses. I read a while back that there's more empty houses in town than there are homeless.
Oh, okay. So
You know, so it could be done.
So
Yeah.
we need some think outside the box kind of help, and we need churches and organizations to come together, and we put together a plan and do something about this, because otherwise there are going to be hundreds of people out in the street and using the bathroom in people's lawns. Homeowners are going to be complaining because people are sleeping in the bushes and that kind of thing. And I've been asking people, where do you expect people to go?
Yeah. Well, you know, you was talking about what we need, and I think what we need is the city council to have a heart. And to pay a little bit of attention to the situation. I think I just saw that they're putting a bunch of money into the homeless situation. Well, you know, they should be putting some money in to keep people from going homeless. Would be a
Exactly.
good place to start.
Exactly.
That's
Prevention,
right.
ounce of prevention,
That's right.
prevention is worth a pound of cure, something
That's
like
right.
that. Well, let's pay a little bit of attention to both sides of that equation.
Yep.
And that's what needs to be done. We got about 10 minutes here, so we can go on forever here. I know you were wanting to say something here, so we should continue.
I do want to say something, and I agree with Mari, everything that she said. It's a little bit gut-wrenching for me just to think, though, that the folks who have created the problem, the immediate creators of the problem, who have a lot of money because of creating the problem, they are getting left off the hook, and it's kind of tragic. And I agree that with Mari that we don't have any options right at this point, particularly with this situation. I want to look ahead a little further, though, and I want to urge people out there to look ahead a little further at this, because we're not going to always be able to fix all of these things this same way. I mean, we know that community groups are taxed already. Okay, and I think that Mari's right that we can probably help these women in this building. It's not a huge building, it's not a huge number of people. We can probably get shelter for them, and we need to. But I don't think we can expect that we can be able to rely upon the community to fix all of these things without paying any attention to the folks who are creating the crisis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, and you know, the question is, how do we demand accountability from the folks creating the crisis? And my personal opinion is that, yes, the city plays a role in that, but I think people like me who are tenants and who see what's going on but are maybe not immediately affected but care about the condition of other tenants need to be part of this picture. I think tenants who have been affected and have gotten help from each other need to pay it forward now. I think that this is something that has to be a community effort, and it has to be led by the people who are immediately affected. I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone, but I do want to point out that there are social service agencies out there, and you might say, well, how come they haven't fixed the problem? There's good groups like CAT, Community Alliance of Tenants, who do good work, but I think it behooves us to be aware that they are not exactly the same people who are immediately affected by the problem. And so they don't have a perfect alignment of interests with the folks who are affected by the problem either. CAT has told us, people there have told us, that we have to be somewhat at arm's length with respect to the concept of a tenants union. We get funding from the city. So if we push too hard and we make too much noise and we get people at the city upset with us, then they might choose to cut our funding, for example. So we know that there's a certain degree of conflict of interest to some extent. As good-hearted as they may be and as hard as they may try, there is somewhat of a disconnect. They are not exactly the same folks as who are being affected by the problem. And as I think you pointed out, Jim, politicians get a lot of money from developers. They get a lot of money from real estate interests and so on. If we are going after those interests, right, then that also affects the politicians. If a group like CAT were to try to directly attack or go after those business interests, then it might affect, at one step removed, right, their funding, because their funding is not coming from the developers directly, but it is coming from the politicians from the city who are in turn getting money from the developers. So I think we have to look at this and we have to have an analysis of the situation. And in my mind, it leads to one conclusion. There is only one conclusion that I can draw from it, which is that tenants themselves have to organize.
And that has to be the tenants that are like yourself, can pay the extra $300-400 a month. Okay, the tenants that are like myself, for example, my neighbor, all right, her blood pressure went up to 169/119 over this stress. All right, seniors and people who are right in the middle of this fire, you can't build the house when the house is being torn down all at the same time, right? It's conflicting, and it's extremely stressful to move anyway. But under fire like this, and where you have nowhere to go, people are in a panic. So sometimes people will shut down and won't be able to think creatively or problem solve and that kind of thing. And if you don't have a pretty well educated background and know how to navigate through all the social services and know which questions to ask and that type of thing, and you don't have a phone like the lady in this particular case, or Shakita didn't have paper, she ran out of paper, and you have to like have a lot of supplies, and you have to have working printer and computer to even look for places. And now that there aren't any places, these people, I can understand. I mean, they are not sleeping at night because they're wondering, what am I going to do? I think, was it April or one of them said, well, what, they're just going to throw all of our stuff out and we're going to lose all of our possessions? What little they have, they're going to lose that? So this is why it's an emergency, a critical emergency, and we have to jump on it now. Once people become homeless, you're not going to be able to organize them very well.
No. That you mentioned, the homeless, the houses situation. There's the R2D2 group downtown. There's the Dignity Village. They are managing to get help that allows them, government committees or government bureaus that are able to help them find work or help them weave their way through the bureaucracies to get the help that they need. Is there anything for the pre-homeless that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do with Tenants Priced Out. I'm talking to the city officials. I'm working with other groups.
So you're working to establish that right now.
Yes, I'm trying to establish a network, and I'm talking to the homeowners that I know and people in our community and telling them that you need to be on alert because there's going to be a whole wave of folks in there. If you're complaining now, you're really going to be upset later, okay?
Especially if they're infirm in many ways,
Oh, yeah, we're going to have people dying.
Dying on the streets, potentially.
We went through this at the Roosevelt when the owners suddenly, were able to, it was time to cash in on this Section 8 building. And so they put notices under people's doors like the day after the holidays. And this was a senior building, primarily for senior and disabled. and people just went into total panic because one, we had people there that were like over 100 years old, and
Whoa.
and so and they'd been there for like 20 years. I think 16 years was the less time someone had resided there. So they were just, I mean, it was just thrown in the blue. So they had 60-day notice, same as this, and they were told that if they didn't get out, then they were going to have to, their rent was going to like double all of a sudden. So immediately, myself and another tenant, we went into action, and I actually went out and canvassed, and because we were being told, oh, you have all this housing stock, or you'll be able to find another downtown apartment. But I went to every building, I went to every one in Northwest, I called every property owner. No, there wasn't any housing stock.
It's a fantasy.
So it was a combination of bringing in the housing authority at that particular time, which, you know, because each organization was pitching the ball to the next organization. So we've got Susan Emmons from Northwest Pilot Project. They got on board. We got media there. We got the Housing Authority. We brought the owners down there. We got the property management down there and the manager of the building and all the tenants in one room at one time. And I got the flip chart up there and started going through reality. And then everybody all of a sudden like recapitulated and decided, okay, fine, we're going to take this seriously, and now we're going to help out. So that 60-day turned into a year and a half. All the tenants got moved, and there was money for the movers, and they brought boxes down there. They helped people pack, and people got placed. And even Northwest Pilot Project, they took some of the costs for people in the Pearl. They were building that new building down there at the time, and the rent was way too high for the Section 8 vouchers. So they, for I think a year and a half or so, they paid the extra rent. So there was some cooperation going on, huge cooperation, some subsidizing, and I know what people can do when they want to do it.
And they got a fireball like you helping them.
Well, you know.
Well, we got a little over a minute, so we're going to have to just a quick summation here, there, Guy, and because we got about a minute and 12 seconds here, so it went quick.
I love everything that Mari is saying, and I think that it's going to be a combination of these efforts. I think that it's got to be a combination of, yes, we have fires to put out when we're talking about people potentially dying on the streets. And I do also, again, want to kind of emphasize the longer term picture that we need to get all hands on deck so that these fires don't start popping up and don't continue to pop up on this immediate crisis, life-threatening basis. And the way that happens is that tenants start to politically organize amongst each other.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of aspects of this we really haven't covered. You know, the whole how media is treating it. We haven't really talked about the whole society as a whole, how it feeds into this and how it really kind of allows this to happen and demands it to happen with the whole capitalistic thing. So down to 15 seconds. I wish we had more time. Thank you for coming on.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Jim.
for inviting us, Jim.
And we'll do
Thank
this
you.
again.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes,
And
thank
I also
Thanks
want
a
to
lot.
thank the crew. We didn't get to the phones, but I promise we'll do the phones on this soon. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.